serious. What are some men's issues that are overlooked? Serious replies only. Loneliness. Many men tend to have a lot of friends, but never close friends or people they feel like truly care about them, which leads to declining mental health, and maybe worse. Especially not relationships in which you can talk mental health and that deep emotional stuff. I saw a woman attempting to hit her boyfriend outside a local supermarket. He walked away from her. She followed him and kept hitting him. After this went on for about 90 seconds, he shoved her away roughly once. 2 cars immediately stopped and men jumped out of them shouting at and threatening this guy for shoving her. Nobody did anything when she was attacking him. There have been social experiments about this. People laugh when the woman hits the man, but the other way around, people intervene. That's freaking depressing. I can't really say anything besides that. Poor guy. Men who are victims of sexual assault, rape, domestic abuse, male suicide rates, and depression. Male sexual assault and rape in the military is a huge issue that is ignored. We are barely scratching the surface on female rape in the military. Imagine being a male victim of rape or sexual assault, especially by a male perpetrator. I can't imagine how hard it is to endure that and then receive no sympathy or support because of our weird hang-ups about men being able to defend themselves. It's criminal what we do to victims of these horrible crimes. The criminality is magnified x 100 if it's a member of the military. The miserable paternity leaves. Cause what man wants to spend time with his newborn kid and a recovering wife, right? My country just raised it from 3 days to 2 weeks within 6 months after the birth, which still isn't a lot. This is also a feminist issue since terrible paternal leave, now often rebranded as secondary parental leave, forces one parent to solely take the burden of raising a new baby by themselves during working hours. Childcare is often prohibitively expensive for babies, forcing the primary parent, oftentimes mom, to need to give up their work to care for the child until they reach an age with more manageable daycare costs at like 3-4 years old. We really shouldn't have concepts like primary secondary parental leave, but a flat parental leave that covers like 6 months. There are almost always more shelters available to women experiencing homelessness. In my city, the split is about 75% beds for women and children and 25% for men. I understand that society considers women more vulnerable, but I live in a city where it routinely gets below 0 in the winter. Hypothermia doesn't care about your gender. When I lived in support accommodation, they only allowed a certain number of men per house. For example, only 3 in a 6-bedroom house, because 2 men together are apparently violent. For a while I lived with 5 other women because there weren't any rules about how many women could live together. There were daily arguments and screaming matches, many of which would lead to actual fist fights, and it went on for a lot longer than it should have because we're women and it's not that bad. Homeless support for men is horribly bad. I have an interesting take on this that is like the same but also opposite. I needed to go to a shelter some years ago, and they vetted me on why and who was making my home so unsafe that I had to leave. I told them it was a woman and they told me they wouldn't take me immediately, because the person causing the domestic violence was a woman. There was even the sound of frustration in the person's voice, like they didn't take it seriously. Verbal eye rolling, if you will, as if women can't be abusers. Penis shaming, along with fat shaming and height shaming. It's some of the most casual cruelty I hear frequently, even if it's joking about little duck energy, even if it's not meant to be malicious. As someone with not quite a micropenis but might as well be, it's devastating every time. Just one more way I feel inadequate. One more way I'm not a real man. It hurts even more when other men do it. Unfortunately, body positivity stops when the body becomes male. Mental health. It was taught to me. I didn't think much of it. And now that I'm about to hit 20, I can feel the effects like a ripple. It's actually hard for me to open up to people, and when I do I feel like I'm wasting everyone's time. Height is a common thing to joke about. Nobody sees a problem with it, but it can really whittle away at your self-worth when people always make fun of you for it. I used to be self-conscious about it, but all you can ever do is embrace what you have. If anyone talks shit about it, then they are immature and probably still mentally stuck in kindergarten who doesn't like to play with other kids where blue isn't their favorite color. This really hits me. As someone who has always been shorter than everyone my age and stayed that way, my height has always been my biggest source of insecurities. Everyone has always made fun of me for it. Both men and women quite literally look down on men who are short and often see them as inferior. I wish I could say I ended up over it, but I still haven't. I'm not there yet, but I know the only person who can get me there is me, and I know I will get there sometime. Mental health. Oftentimes men are made to believe mental health struggles show weakness or vulnerability, when in reality it is not something they can control. I spent 25 years quietly dealing with depression and emotional instability and never told a soul because, men don't have emotions about anything but titties and football. Instead of the usual 3 minutes with the actual doctor, we talked for 20 minutes. The guy gave me a prescription for Prozac that absolutely changed my life. And since then our relationship has been awesome. He has told me that about 1 in 10 patients will actually talk about their medical issues. And another 1 in 10 won't stop talking about medical issues. The rest just say everything is okay and try to deal with it on their own. Talk to your doctors, people. Erectile dysfunction. It seems like a joke, but guys literally kill themselves because of it. It's like losing the ability to love, losing your manhood, losing your ability to feel intimate with someone. I worked at a family practice clinic and was actually shocked at how many people had DD. It's honestly super common and more education should be given out. I was just watching Huge, in France. One of the male characters was having a bad day but his girlfriend wanted to have sex to have a baby. Within 30 seconds they went from fully clothed to having sex while he appeared completely uninterested. I get that it's not pornography, but painting the picture that men are literally always ready to go no matter what is unhealthy. No way this would work. Also reminds me of watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. Magically a 70-year-old Larry David has the sex drive of a 30-year-old, kind of a hidden one that's clouded by many of today's norms and cultural values. But the concept of disposability with men are things that make them individual beings. Yeah, typical male things like enjoying video games or sports are viewed as immature or barbaric and not important. The lack of a good support system. Just because a guy has people that he hangs out with, doesn't mean he's comfortable telling them serious personal issues. I don't know the accuracy of the statement, but I read that majority of men between ages 14-35 are lonely. I can speak for myself and that's true. It had been more than a year I had any human interaction outside my family. Even though your family has your back but you don't tell them all the things you are going through just because you don't want to bother them with your problems because you feel your problems don't matter and you should be able to face it on your own. Male pattern baldness and the impact it can have on mental health and body image. Imagine being in college surrounded by guys with perfect NW1 hairlines with all these cool fades and modern trendy hairstyles while you're stuck looking like Moby or Varies from Got. Brutal. Mine started around 16. Really fricked with my head. And I wouldn't leave the house without a hat for maybe a decade. One of the issues is that the balding experience is very subjective. A lot of people will tell you to shave your head and it'll look great. Normally that's because it looks great on them. Talk of bald men looking distinguished, or references to Jason Statham and The Rock etc. really don't help either. The consequences of body shaming. It has the same effect on men as it does women. No one likes to be insulted, no matter who you are. Just because we are a different sex, does not mean our minds are so vastly different that we react differently to even the most basic of things. Some women think we are emotionless, meant to serve them. Sorry if I had worded this wrong. Going bald really sucks.